Hi everyone, so I'm going to show you how to subscribe to the AR/VR Toolkit beta program, as well as various steps you need to do before trying to use it. So the first thing is to go to the beta autodesk.com website, and you can sign in for the beta program for the AR/VR Toolkit, which is a tech preview. We still have a lot of work to do. But in short, from the project list, you'll find the Forge AR/VR Toolkit. And in the resources, once you have applied to the program, you'll see various things. So you have 3ds Max Interactive, formerly Stingray, which is available there. Just note that the SVF server is going to disappear in favor of the same approach we have for Unity. And you have the Unity, which stands here in the list. You will need to download both. So the first one you need is actually the preparation scene, which will upload a file on the Forge server and create a scene for you. On the Unity plugin, which will connect your game engine to Forge. This Unity plugin can do two things for you. The first one is from the editor, you can create an asset, which means that you can create a prefab, or you can import any file to the engine and create a prefab that you can reuse later in your game engine. Let's call that static asset. The other thing you can do is if you connect it to internet, it can do the exact same thing in real time from the game engine while you run the application, and we'll call that dynamic asset. In short, through HTTP requests, we'll stream the content to your running application in real time, and you can decide what you want to see into the application. So I already downloaded both, so you don't need to, I won't do that again, but this is where you need to go. Once you have that, you need to go to the developer autodesk.com website. And once you're here, you need either to sign up or sign in if you already have an Autodesk account or not. So if you have an Autodesk account already, you don't need to sign up, you just sign in. And once you have signed in, you would get into this website. On the documentation part, you'll see a lot of things, but not the AR/VR Toolkit because we're still in tech preview. But you go to My Apps, and you have a button here to create a new app. So this is what we're going to do. And we're going to create an application. So this is the title I'm giving to my application. I provide a quick description. The callback URL, we're not going to use it at this time because we'll be using two-legged. The callback URL is only important if you want to use three-legged and you want actually to connect to data which are stored either on Fusion 360 or BIM 360 docs. This is really about accessing a specific user data on the Forge platform. Because we're just going to use two-legged here, we don't really need that, but just to show you how you can do that. So it could be HTTP or HTTPS. And here I'm just going to refer to my local host and provide just a URL, a standard URL. And now what you need to put here is really optional, but in short, you can do something like this. Let's say autodesk.com. And you create the app. You need two things now. You need to capture these two keys, which you would need later into the process to prepare your scene as well as consuming the information. So in the next step, we're going to do the necessary step to prepare your scene, as well as connecting to the game engine. Again, so this time, what we want to do is actually to upload a couple of files and prepare the scene we want. So the first intent here is really to prepare a default scene. And for that, we're going to use a simple script which does a couple of things. I'm going to describe that script in a few minutes, but for the time being, let's rock to the sample. So the first thing we want to do is actually create two system variables. So the first one is forge underscore client underscore ID, where I copy the forge client ID that we created in the previous video, and the forge client secret as well that we created in the previous video. Once we have that, I have a simple script which is called test to legate, and I have three samples: BB8 Droid, Urban House, and the V8 engine, which will be used in this example. So let's start with the BB8. So all I need to do, and for sure I can use other tools to do that, but just to make things simple, we upload. First thing is we create an access token, then we verify the bucket exists. If it doesn't, we create a default one. We upload the drawing and we get in return its file ID. We request that file to be translated on the Forge infrastructure. So depending on the file size and file type, it can take some time. Usually F3D files are pretty quick to translate, so it all depends on how Forge system is charged at that time, but we'll give it a few minutes to do it. So here we have now the file being extracted with all the information that Forge needs, and we ask the system now to create a default scene for the AR kit. Now that the AR kit have saved the JSON file and the job has been completed, we have saved the manifest file, so you can see how it looks like. And you would notice at the very end that we have the ARKit section now, which will include that the scene was prepared successfully. It's a type of, on the default scene name is scene for this example. And your scene is ready to be consumed. So now I'm going to run the script again, but this time, instead of asking for BB8, I'm going to ask for the V8 engine, for example. The exact same process, and everything will be put into the same bucket, so I don't need to recreate it if I don't want. So I'll stop the video here, but I'm going to translate the three files, and we're going to use these three files in the next video. Okay, so now let's rock into Unity. So I'm going to create a complete new project, and for this I'm going to go into my favorite directory. On here I need to find a name, demo 1, and I create the project. Okay, so now our project been created. what we're going to do is to import our package. So for this, I'm going to the Asset menu, Import Custom Package. I grab the one I downloaded from the beta site, and by default you would select everything, but you can filter things out as you wish. That will import the Forge AR kit onto your project. And once you have that, we'll start with a very basic example to connect to Forge to import a resource. To do that, the first thing I'm going to do is to create a game object and add our Forge loader script. And I need two parameters, three parameters, the URN, bearer, and scene ID. The scene ID is the one which has been created in the previous step, so I don't need to change that. If I did forgot the different elements, so the first one is the Forge client ID, which was created on the Autodesk Forge website. So you see they're stored as system variable on my system, and I can generate a new access token using a simple script which has been provided with the beta. So I go to the bearer and I copy the access token. And if I forgot what were my resources, I have another script which can go into my system and grab the different resources which are stored on the cloud. So I want to use the BB8 droid. So I just copy this URL here, paste it here. And now I actually can launch the game if I want to. I just had a bit of UI very quickly. So I had a Canva. On the Canva, I had a slider. On the slider, the first thing I'm going to do is to hide the handle, and for the filling area, I'll use something different from white, something greenish. And I'm going to hide the slider. And now if I go back to my game object, the first thing I'm going to do is to show the slider anytime I have an update. So I go to the game object, set active. When the system will have completed loading, I would hide the slider again. And every time I have a node being processed, there will be a callback. So I can update the slider value with a dynamic value. So now I can see a progress bar. Another thing I'm going to do for that sample, it's more nabbing than anything else, but I will just put the background as black so I can see everything happening. And I just check where is my camera. My camera is here, and my game object is in front of it. So far so good. The system seems to be ready, and I can start the game. So if everything's working, the progress bar will display the progress, and I'll see my BB8 droid showing, and it's been created on the fly from the internet. What is interesting now is if you expand this object, you can see all the different transforms, mesh, which compose the scene. And if you go to the scene object, you have the metadata of the model itself. So for example, the world up vector being aligned with Y, like in Unity, there is no transform made on the scene pivot. Otherwise, there would be a rotation here to realign Z to Y. Because the scene says that it was in millimeter, the scaling was applied automatically. If we bring other objects from different unit system, everything will be at the correct scale. So that's when you run. So if I end the game, for sure the object disappears. But you can, let's copy this URL. And this time I'm going to import the scene. And I'm just copying the parameters here. So this time what will happen is we are in the editor, not in the game. So when I import, let's call this BB8 droid. If I import the asset, I'm creating the exact same object, but this time everything is saved on disk as what I personally call a static asset. If I go here, I can see that all the resources are now saved on disk, so they are persistent. And if I select this object, I have the exact same thing here. See, I have still the properties. If I go here, I have the properties of the different nodes. And what I can do now, if I select the root object, I can build the prefab. Let's call this BB8 droid. Save prefab. Now I have a prefab here with the directory with the resource. So I can delete. And now I can drag and drop my object here. So we'll do one last thing just to show that you can do things very quickly. I'm going to duplicate that object. So now I have two game objects which are exactly the same thing. The difference is that I'm going to move one here and the other one here in front of my camera. And I'm going to run the game again. And the BB8 droid will appear asynchronously together into my game, just to show that I can load the same object multiple times or different object in the same scene. So that's the first one. Obviously, one of the issue here is that I have to provide the bearer, which is an access token which is valid for a limited period. So that's not something you want to do in an application, unless you just want to run it very quickly. You could use the prefab, but it means you're also not connected. So if one of your colleagues makes update on the 3D model, you won't have that because you're not connected. So the first approach is probably preferred. So we're going to create a different sample now, and I already have prepared it, so we don't need to recreate the full scene. What I'm going to do is to go to the Forge example and use this load with two-legged. Don't save. And what I have here is I have the same BB8 droid right there. So that's exactly the same thing we created. Just notice that the object is not activated. The Canva is the same, there's nothing different. But I have this new OS object where I connected to my loader object, and the bearer is empty for now. But what will happen is if I go to the Forge loader constant and open this project, here I have a Forge client ID and Forge client secret that I need to update with the values which I have here. So I can generate the access token directly from the game engine, so I always have an up-to-date access token when I run my project. So what will happen is when I start a game, this guy will get an access token, will wake up the loader object and load BB8 into my scene. It's working. So that is really the preferred approach, which is you generate the access token to access your resources, you load the resources into your game, and then you can make use of the metadata, the geometry, on anything you want. The last project, which we can go very quickly through, is this one. What will happen is when you start the game, the OAuth2 will generate access token, then we will be using this URN and ask for all the different scene definition available for that object. And whenever you pick one, we'll be loading that scene. So for example, you could work with disciplines like HVAC, plumber, electricity, and you can have like 3 different scene definition, and you decide what you want to load at a given time. So create more than one scene on the same resource, and then you can pick up whatever you want. Hope that was useful, how to demonstrate the Forge AR VR Toolkit on Unity. And that code is designed to run in standard Unity and was tested with HoloLens on Dacry already. It will be tested this week for the iArcade, but so far it's already working, so you should not have any problem running on these 3 platforms. Good luck!